All right, so we are still on Microsoft Word, and let me just recap since it has been a while. We started with the introduction to Microsoft Word, and then we now move to the application interface environment, which we are currently having on the screen. We started looking at identifying each part that makes up the Microsoft Office Word. And so far, so good. I have explained most of the parts. I've explained the title bar. I've explained that on the title bar, you access your file name. You also access the control buttons. Then we also talked about the standard toolbar, where I told us you can actually program shortcuts for performing some instruction or some tasks. And then we also move to this particular section, which is the tabs bar.
Right.
I told us that we should be seeing all these tabs as different rooms where we can access different commands when we are typing. That was what led to, for example, we have welcome to DigiTZ. Welcome to DigiTZ. So I told us, supposing I want to increase the size of this writing, I should know that there is a menu that contains the command for increasing the size. If I want to make it bolder, I should also know that there is a menu that contains the command for bolding it. If I want to move it to the center of the page, because as it is now, this particular write-up is not placed at the center of this entire page. So let me reduce it to 100% so that we can view it properly. So you can see that it's not placed at the center of the page. So if I want to place it at the center, then I should know the menu that contains the command called what? Alignment. Okay, so with this, I've just proven that truly all these are like different containers of what? Command. So whenever you are working and you want to transform your entry, you need a particular command to transform it, then you should know that you can access them through what? The menu. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So we also talk about the properties bar, this section, which I said is responsible for displaying the content of any menu you select per time. That is why at the moment, what we are seeing right now, they are properties of home because we are currently on what? Home tab. So we also talk about the ruler bar. I don't know if you should be confirming from your notes if I've actually discussed.
Yes.
Talk about the ruler bar. I told us that the ruler plays a very major role in word processing because the ruler helps us to know the available space, the space we are allowed to impute our record or document within the page. Told us we have the horizontal ruler defining the vertical, defining the right margin and the left margin. We have the vertical ruler defining the top margin and the bottom margin. I don't know if we have discussed the page. Have we discussed the
No.
page? So
No.
what was the last topic? I told you to be writing them down. What was the last topic?
That was what I told you before. The ruler bar.
Laba, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is the continuation of that last class. So it then mean that we are still on Microsoft Word interface. We have not concluded that topic. So let's quickly conclude it. before we bring in a new topic. So in continuation of that topic, we'll start from page, the page. Have you written it down? The page.
Yes.
This is the page. The whole of this area I am navigating at is the page. So the page is known as your electronic book that allows you to process documents. So there are two basic things the page does. One is it allows you to impute the data. So you can see that out of other sessions we have explained so far, none of them could be used to receive what? These letters, these words. You can't type this word here. You cannot type this word any other place outside the word, the page. So the page is your electronic paper, just like the book you are holding there now, that allows you to write. So you can't write here. You can only go there for accessing instructions, for modifying whatever you must have written here. Did you get me?
Yes.
Now, if you look at the page, there are what we call properties of the page. There are certain things you should know their representation on the page. For example, this icon that is blinking, you will only find it within the page. You can't find it blinking outside the page. So we should know, why is it blinking? What is the role of that blinking icon? It is called cursor. Okay, so this particular icon, it is called what? Cursor.
Cursor.
What is the work of the cursor? The cursor is what tells you, or as a user of this app, or as a typist, where the next letter you will type will appear. So with the help of the cursor, I know that if I press G on my keyboard, that particular place is blinking. That is where the G will appear. So the more you keep feeding in different letter, the more it will keep shifting from the current space or position to another. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I explained something the other time. The more you keep bringing in letter, the more it keeps shifting to the preceding margin. Now, once it gets to the margin, in other words, once it gets to this place, where it will find out that there is no longer space, it will now automatically by itself go back
Go to the next page.
to the next line, not the next page. No, I told you the difference between page and line. Now we are still in this page. So if I keep typing now, if I keep typing, if I keep typing, I keep typing, I keep typing, keep typing. Once you get to the last space, it will what? Go to the next line. Now, when it happens like this, it is called soft return. Whenever you allow the cursor to use all the available space on that line and go to the next line by itself, in word processing, it is called soft return. Why? Because you did not force it. But if, for example, I stop here and I decided to say, this is actually what I want on this whole line, it should do a CDS, so you should go to the next line. Then Microsoft Word expect that you, as the user, you force it. Because if you don't force it, it will assume that you still want to use what? This space. And how do we force it? We press what? Enter. So
Enter.
that enter is called hard return. So now you know the difference between soft return and what? Hard return. So just to leave that topic, soft return is when you allow the cursor to return to the next line by itself. While hard return is when you press enter, when you interrupt it by yourself. So now you know the role of the cursor, right? Because we are still discussing the properties of the page. We are still discussing the properties of the page. Now, there is another icon that is on the page. I want us to know its function. Can you see it? This one that only
Yes.
when you move the mouse. Do you have an idea of what it's called? This one that I'm moving, this one that look like eye and some, like some
No.
lines. Okay, now this it is called a suction pointer. It is called insertion pointer. Why the one that blink is called cursor, which we just explained now. So the role of the insertion pointer is to enable you to regulate the cursor. Please, let's take note of that. This one that only move when I move the mouse, the one that is moving now, it's to regulate, to control the one that is blinking. How do I know? If, for example, remember that you are saying that you have started typing from here and all the way from here, you are now here. That means there was a time the cursor was here. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
There was a time this blinking one was here and you keep moving, you keep moving, you keep moving until it goes to where it is right now. So which means that if for any reason I discover that I make mistake here and I need to draw the attention of the cursor to go back there to help me do the correction or insert the character, I need this insertion pointer to go to that very place where I want to make the adjustment and click. Once I click, what I've done now is that I have controlled the cursor blinking from here back to this particular place. Then I can impute my correction. Let's say the correction is RR. After that, I want to bring the cursor back here. I'll bring the insertion pointer there and click. So you can see the way you are regulating the cursor with the words, the insertion pointer. Is that taken?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next thing we want to discuss are the margins. You see, all these are called margins. They are part of what? The page. So you need to know how to calculate your margin as a typist. Now, if I may use a diagram just to explain what this is just like the page we are talking about. The whole of this section is the page. Now, if I am typing as a typist, am I allowed to use the entire space? The answer is no. You are not allowed. That is why when you were at returning or sub-returning, the cursor was not starting from the edge because the cursor know how to smell the words, the margin. The cursor identifies the margin, knows what is called margin and what is called the space is allowed to type on. I don't know if you understand what I just.
Yes.
So now,
Yes.
once you press enter here, the cursor will automatically sense that there is a margin, there is a barrier here. So now what we are about to say is that on the page, you should know your margin. There are 4 margins on the page. And that is what I'm illustrating with this diagram now. So this particular section is your right what? Margin. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Why here? Why this section is your top margin? Is your top margin. Why this is your top margin? Now, this section is your bottom, your left margin. Your left margin. All this you need to understand it. Then here is your bottom margin. Now, which means that which space is reserved for your typing if you remove all the 4 margin is this place, right? That is what Microsoft Word horizontal ruler and the vertical rulers are indicating. So this white space you are seeing, hope you are seeing where I am navigating at.
Yes.
This white space is what defines this length. Now, the one on this other ruler, this white space is what defines this length, which means that your writing can be only what written within this area. Your writing can only be written here. So there is a standard rule that makes Microsoft Word to program the app like this. The rule is that Microsoft Word knew that after typing, there is a consumer of this document. Maybe the job purpose you want to apply for, maybe if it is a letter. So Microsoft Office understood that there should be space set aside so that whenever you want to bind it, look at this note now. you look at this note, if you check inside here now, there are margin. You can see some lines that have been programmed. So the printers understand the concept of margin. That is why the left was all this what space. So the printer is a computer person that knows that you are to leave what margin space because of binding, so that some letters will not be covered.
But okay.
That is the essence of the margin. So they are part of the page property. They are part of the things you must know how to manage within your page. Hope is clear because I want to remove the diagram.
Yes, but if you bring out a page, how do you draw the margin? Or is it automatically there?
No. Yes, it's automatically there. It will show just like the way you have it now. Let's say you open the Microsoft Office and you cannot access your margin, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
simply go to View, and then you will see what this option. Can you see it?
Yes.
It's checked right now. So if I uncheck it, all the ruler has gone. So in a standard manner, you are supposed to make sure that the rulers are visible before you start what writing, so that you'll be able to know the space you are leaving on the left side, the right side, the top. So how do you bring it back? You just simply go back to the view and then click on ruler, and that brings it back. So always make sure that anytime you are typing, you have your both ruler active, both the horizontal and the what? The vertical ruler should be active because they are informing you on certain information. Exactly.
Mm.
Good. Now, let's look at the next part before we bring in our main topic for today, because this one is the completion of what we started the other time. So the next aspect of Microsoft Word we want to talk about is the status bar. Look at it here. The whole of this section, the whole of this section, the whole of this section I am navigating at. I want to be sure that you are seeing it. Are you
Mm-hmm.
seeing it? Where you have page 1 of 1, where you have these icons. Can you see the way you have 100%?
Yes.
Are you seeing them?
Yes.
Okay, so the whole of this section is called the status bar. It's called the status bar. Now, the status bar, as the name implies, it gives us an update of our page and its contents. It updates us on the page and its contents. For example, right now it's updating us on how many pages we have used so far. As we can see here, how many pages is it updating us that we have in this document? Page 1.
5.
No. 5 is word. 5 is not page. Look at this. Page 1 of what? 1. Please, I want us
Okay.
to pay attention to this, please. Page 1 of 1. Microsoft Word is telling you that in this document, which you have not named, which is currently bearing document 1, you have just 1 page, and you are currently on that page, or you are in that page. That is what it's telling you. So one of this one is telling you where you are. Another one is telling you how many of them. Now, I want you to observe something now. I want you to observe something. If I go to insert, if I go to insert, if I go to insert and select page break, I want you to put your eyes here once I click on the page break. What is the configuration there now?
Table.
Page what? Page 2 of what?
2 of 2.
What does that mean? I want to know if you understand that
You've
interpretation.
created another page.
It means that your cursor is currently on which of the 2 pages?
The second one.
Second one. Now, just watch. Let me click on the first one. The configuration have changed. It's now page one of what?
Okay.
So which means that before the off, whatever value you have there is the one telling you where you are,
Where
right?
you are. All
While
right.
the one after the off, the value you have is the one telling you the total number of what? Pages you have per document. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after the two, you have five what? Word. That is the one counting the number of what words you have typed on the page. So it counted the whole of this as what? Five words.
Five
Five words.
words.
Good. So when you are typing, you can always know the number of words you have typed, depending on what this particular place. Now, if I double click on it, if I double click on that place telling me five words, you see the analysis is brought out. So
Mm.
it's now presenting more detail. Now here it's telling us 2 pages, 5 words, how many character, no space, 165, no space. What is saying is character. Character is letter. Letter is counting the what? The letter.
And then,
Good. Now, this one is called the proof. This is like the dictionary that checks your spelling error and your grammatical error when you are typing. So that is why once you type a word that is not an English word, or maybe you try typing an English word, but you made mistake, it's going to what? Cross it. Then when it mark it, it means that what? The word is correct. So for example, now, let me delete this and type prosper. So as I'm typing prosper, you can see is marking it. You can see it now. It means that what? My spelling is correct. My spelling is correct. So if I make mistake now, let me remove the O. If I remove the O like this, so what this is will be checking is error. Now he might see this as a reasonable word, but the what we call and spelling and grammar, so which you can get under review. You can see it here. So once you type a word and it's underlined with red, it depends on the sensitivity of the application. So at the moment, the application, good. You can see as soon as I create the space, what did you see? Is it still having the good? Is having what?
yeah.
X now, which means that what? There is an alarm on that particular text that something is wrong. So how do you correct it? So if you highlight it and then you click on it, it will open what? The spelling and grammar section for you that will suggest. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Now, it will capture the word, the wrong one, and suggest that could it have been any of this you wanted to type before you made this mistake? You say yes. Once you click here now, it means that what? You have automatically what? Corrected it. Once it's corrected, it will disappear. Did you understand what I just did?
Yes.
Good. Now, supposing you made that mistake and you don't want to go through here, that is where you go to review and come to this ABC, which represents what? Spelling and what? Grammar. Spelling and grammar. Okay, so I'm still trying to explain the concepts or the role of the status bar. So I've explained the left-hand side. I want to explain the right-hand side because the status bar spans from here down to this section. It does not stop here. Are you with me? So now
Yes.
let's talk about the right side of the status bar, starting from here. 1, 2, 3. They are called layouts. They are called layouts. What
Sorry, what did you say that the left side call?
No, the whole of this, look up, look up. The whole of this, just look at where my movement will start from. Can you see the cursor?
Yes.
You can see the cursor, just be following me.
Yes.
The whole of this area is called the status bar. So this status bar has some functions at the left side, has some at the what? The right side. So what I am saying is that I've explained the ones that are the what? The left hand side. Then I'm about explaining the ones that are the what? The right hand side. We are still talking about the same bar. Is
All
it
right.
good? Now, this from here, 1, 2, 3, talks about the layout. The layout. So what is the layout? Layout is what determines how your content is presented on the page. Layout talks about structuring of your document. Structuring of your document. So these three icons, they are responsible for layout, the structuring of your item. The structuring of your item. Now look up. By default, we are on this layer, the middle one, which says what? Print what? Layer. Now, this print layout happens to be the best layout that could be recommended for every typist. You know why? Because this print layout, when you are on it, when you are viewing your page document with this print layout, you have the privilege of seeing your horizontal ruler and your what? Your vertical ruler, which I have already pointed out the importance of them. Now, let me shift from this layout. Hope you are following my cursor. Let me shift from this layout to this first one that says read mode. Check the environment now. How does it look like? Does it look like an environment that you can actually use for typing? No. This one is just for read. Maybe what you have typed, you just want to read it. No, not for when you are typing. Now, let me go back to the middle one. You see it now? So this one is a writing mode. This one is the best writing mode. Then the next one there is called web layer. Please make sure you are following the cursor so that you know where I'm clicking. You see this one is a web layer. Now, if I click on this, check your environment. You can see that I have a wider space because when you are reading web content, you will need space. Then, but at the moment, I am no longer accessing my vertical ruler. I am only seeing what? My horizontal what? Ruler. So you can see the reason why I said the middle one, which is the print layout, is the best. The middle one is the best.
For typing.
Good. It's the one you use for typing. But thank God that Microsoft Word have already programmed it as what? The default. Exactly. So that is
Yes.
once you open Microsoft Word, it will open on this particular word layout. So now there is another part of that same status bar we need to explain. You see the whole of this place where you have this minus, where you have this plus. I hope you are seeing what I'm touching. Can you see from this minus to this 100? Can you see it?
Yes.
That place is called meter. It's called zooming meter. It's called zooming meter. Are you with me? It's called what? Zooming meter. Now, what can we achieve with this? Look at the part. This is just to determine how you view your page content. For example, now if I keep clicking on that plus, you can see what is happening. Can you see what is happening? As I'm clicking on that plus, what is happening? It's
zooming it out.
Bigger, right? Because the page is what's zooming in. Now, this has nothing to do with the printouts. This is just how you view it on the screen. Now, if you click on this minus, what is happening? It's shrinking.
It reduce back.
Good. Now, there are times you can shrink your page to look like this. Can you see what we have now? Sometimes your hand simply touch it and it appears like this, and you are wondering, you are not seeing your writer. So it's not by highlighting and increasing the font size. You should know that what? That is zooming issue. So just go back to the plus and what? Zoom in.
Zoom it
Now,
out.
if you don't want to use this place to zoom, if you double click on it, double click on that percentage, whatever percentage you have there at that moment. If you double click on it, please, I want you to follow this, please. If you double click on that percentage, it will bring out this dialog box. Can you see it? So from here, I can say go to 100%. I click OK. Can you see the way I jump at once? I don't want to be moving it gradually. So I can just double click on this to bring out this. And so, okay, go to what? 200% what? Automatically. You see it? I can click. Just clicking. If you don't want to double click, then you can come to this many pages. There are many pages you can click here and choose what? How many pages you want to see at the same time. Because sometimes when you are previewing for printing, because the documents are much.
documents are more, they could be up to like 100. So instead of you checking one, just preview it with what? Many pages. Let's say what? I want to preview what? This. Or I will just say maybe something like 2 to what? 1 page. If you click, you see it like this. So right now, let me go back. Page width, I can use page width. I can manually choose the percentage. I can delete this as okay. I want to view this with what? 12. And then I click OK. This is 12. Exactly.
Yes.
Now, if you don't want to go through this status bar to do all these things that I just did now, you can go to view, view menu. From view menu, you will see most of these things that I'm explaining. Can you see them here now? This is what?
Yes. Yes.
This is multiple pages. This is 1 page. So you can click on the zoom icon itself so that you can have access to this, where you can choose the one you want and then click. So that is how to work with what? Zooming what? Meter. So that brings us to the end of that previous topic, Microsoft Word interface. So with this now, I want to be sure that you know what is called the scroll bar, you know what is called the title bar, you know what is called the property bar and the page and its properties. Any question? Please, questions on what we have done so far. Any question?
No.
All right. So if there is no question, then we are going to the next section, the next topic. So our next topic should be Microsoft Word Office Basic Word Processing. Basic Word Processing. Command. Basic Word Processing Command. Now, what do we mean by commands? Command are instructions. They are functions which we use in transforming our write-up. Are you with me? Commands are
Yeah.
which are used for transforming your entries. So whatever you type, there might be quest or need for you to improve it. That is what actually makes you a word processor or a typist. Your ability to type on the page and then transform it, change it, manipulate it, make it more presentable and what? Readable. That is what makes you. So having knowledge of these functions that are used for modifying tests is very important to every user of this app, because that is the main essence. Because Microsoft Word is a text editor. In other words, it is used to create tests and modify word tests. So it is a word processor. It is used to process words. And that is the reason why we want to look at the basic. After the basic, then we will now end it with the advanced. So we have the basic command, which are used regularly by almost every user of this app for transforming word tests. Exactly. All right. Now, before you start your word processing, there is something you need to do, which is called page setup. Page setup. It's just like when you get to an office in the morning, you take time to set up the office before that day's activities commences, right? You arrange the office, you clean the office because you are expecting customers to come. So you are preparing the office for the activities of that day. That is what we mean by what? Page setup. Now, a user of this app is not expected to just open Microsoft Word and start typing, except you just want to learn, perfect some things. But if you are typing a real document, the standard says that once you get to the page, though the page came with different settings, there is always a default setting. Microsoft Word have already put that in place. But that is an assumption of Microsoft Word that the person's work might go with this setting. But you have to assess it and check whether truly it can fit into what you want to do. If it doesn't, do you have skill on how to amend it, how to adjust it? That is why I want to start with page setup. So page setup is actually a process. Are you with me? Page setup, it is a process, or it is the art or an art of preparing the page before usage. It is an art of preparing the page before usage. So before you start using the page for whatever document you want to type, you are expected to what? To prepare it. And this involves setting the following features. What are the features that are required to be set up before you start using the page? You set up what? The page margin. You set up the page margin. Page what? Margins. Thank God that I've already explained some of them. So one of the things you set up before you start using your page is what? The margin. Then another thing again you set up is the paper size. I hope you are noting down some of this. Paper what? Size. Then another thing again you set up is the page or paper orientation. The page or paper orientation. So you see these three items, they are very key that every user of this app should take out time to prepare them. Now, like I told you before now, that when you open Microsoft Word, there are already settings across these three elements. There is a default setting for margin already. There is a default setting for paper size already. There is a default setting for page or paper what? Orientation already. Are you with me? You pay attention. Now, what is now the margin? How do I check the default setting? We are going to be looking at that as we check each of them. What is the margin? The margin are the 4 spaces around the pages set aside for binding of documents or adding some special commands like header and footer, page numbering. So these 2 things I mentioned are the core reason or fundamental reason why page margins are set aside. Remember, I just showed you now, I have talked about the margin today. So let me just paraphrase on them again. Now look up. From here to this place, what is it indicating, man? This place I'm navigating at.
Empty.
What is it representing? Margin, right?
Margin. That something will not be written there.
Now, what is this one representing? Left what? Margin.
Left margin.
That is what I'm saying. In other words, all these spaces that are set aside around the page, they are called what? Margin. How do we set them? How do I even know the default, the one that came with the Microsoft Office setting? so that I can relate it to what I want to type to know whether the current margin setting can actually handle my document. Now look up. Writing the steps on how to set your margin. Number one, you go to layout. Once you come to layout, once you get to layout, go to layout. Once you get to layout, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4. They are under what? What is the title of this host group? Page what?
Page setup.
You know, I told us in our last class that each of these tabs has group, right? Has group.
Yes.
And this one I just explored now has how many group? Everything you have here is what?
Okay.
Setup. Everything you have here is under what? Paragraph.
Paragraph.
Here is under what? Arrange.
Arrange.
Now, everything we are discussing right now, they are under what? Page setup.
Page setup.
Now,
Yeah.
this is the margin I'm talking about. So once I click here, you can see that by default, Microsoft Word have already programmed your margin to be what? Top 1, left 1, bottom 1, right 1, which means that by inches, if you measure from here to this place is what? 1 inches, right? That is what Microsoft is telling you. If you measure from here, 1, that is the reason why it's equal. You can see that the space are equal, right? The space are what? Equal, because from what we just got here now, all the sides are what? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That is Microsoft Word or Office standard. But I will ask myself, please pay attention. I will ask myself, if I am leaving this space, hope it will not end up increasing the number of pages my document is going to occupy. Because I have seen in a situation whereby somebody will tell you that I don't have enough money. I want everything not to exceed 10 pages. Have you heard anybody telling you that before?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I mean, the person is trying to economize his or her resources. So as a typist, once you hear such from the person's mouth, you should be conscious of the amount of space you are leaving as your margin, knowing fully well that those spaces you are leaving as margin, they are not usable, right? So when you are looking for more space, when you are looking for space to accommodate more document, why will you be leaving too much space on your margin? That is the question. You are looking for space. So it means that you should minimize your margin space so that you can gain more space on the what? The document. Exactly. So if that should be the case, I want half of this. I want this ruler tab to come here. In other words, I am saying that I want to buy more space for the document and take more space out from what? The margin. So which means that I am no longer okay with this. I'm going somewhere. Which means I am no longer okay with what? With this default setting. So how do I now change it? That is the essence of this topic I'm taking you now. Page settle. Where I am not satisfied with the default margin setting, default paper size setting, default paper orientation setting. How do I change it? How do I change it to suit my own document? Now you go to this. Can you see this? Customize what?
Customize margins.
Good. Once I click here, it will bring me a dialog box. Now I have the privilege to twist it as I want it. Now remember, these are the 1, 1, 1, 1 that we were seeing there, right? I will say I want it to be half of what was there, which is what? 0. What?
10.5.
Now remember, there is a rule that guides you when you are tampering with this place. The rule says that the opposite side should be equal, which means that if you are giving top 0.5, is facing what? The bottom, right? It must also be what? The
0.5.
so that at the end of the day, your document can be centralized. Nobody will accept a document after printing is slanted on the page. It's not properly what? Fitting. So to avoid such, that is why we are obeying this rule that, okay, let's leave equal what? Margin size so that the document can be at the center. So if for any reason you want to also change here, Then you do the same thing, 0.5. Then, or the same thing by observing the row, 0.5. Now, once you are through, you click OK. But before you click OK, there is another thing called what? Gutter. This gutter is just a design that you add to either the left-hand side of your document or at the top. Right now, the gutter is programmed as 0. So we are not seeing its impact. Pay attention. Now, if I move this up now, can you see what is happening here? Put your eyes here. As I'm increasing the gutter, you can see what is happening. It's just a design. And anytime you apply the gutter, there you come here and say, okay, where right now is showing at the left-hand side. If I select top, you can see where it is now. So if you are using gutter, then you regulate where you want it to appear here. But if I'm not using what? The gutter for anything, if I program it on 0, then this becomes what? Useless. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, all this setting, this margin setting, the top margin setting, the left margin setting, where are they going to be applied on? They are going to be applying on which orientation? Is it portrait or landscape? So you can choose it here. So this is where you choose your what? Your orientation, which is this one now. This orientation is just a way of presenting our document, whether vertically or what? Horizontally, depending on the. So, but our research have shown that portraits accommodate more content than what? Landscape. And at the same time, landscape help us, or landscape generate what? Longer lines compared to what? The portrait. So I am implementing all this setting on portrait. That is what you are saying if you click what? Okay. So now please, before I click, I want you to observe what is going to happen here. Also, what is going to happen here. So once I click OK now, I want you to check here. What did you notice?
It shifted back.
Good. That means what? Now we have gained more space in our what? Typing environment, and we have reduced the space on the what? The margin. Now, you see what I did now. What I did now can be used to solve a challenge where you are typing. Once you have typed and your document have entered 6 pages, and you want to compress everything to like 3 pages, do what I did now. Everything what? Will fit.
Reduce.
Reduce. If it doesn't reduce, then another option should be you reduce the size of what? The write-up. Are you following?
Yes.
But please, on no condition, your margin should be reduced beyond 0.5. That is the least. I believe you know what is called binder. You are a printer. There is a brand.
Yes.
That we call it a spiral binding and the PVC, right? That PVC, the least one, the width of it is 0.5. So if your margin is smaller than 0.5, that means what? Some things will be what? Covered. So you shouldn't put 0.4. The least should be what? 0.5. Now I'm going back to the margin again, and then I want to show us a principle. The more you increase the values here, the bigger the margin become and the smaller the workspace become. Now take note of that. Are you following? The more, look at it here, the more we reduce, we were having 1 here before, and we reduce from 1 to 0.5, which is what? Half of what was there, right? Now, you also notice that the margin space reduced and the working space increased, right?
Increased, yeah.
Same rule. If for any reason I increase from 0.5 to 2, and I follow the principle and I put here 2, then the same thing here 2, the same thing here 2. If I click OK now, what happened? Can you see what is happening now? The margin gain more space and the work environment was reduced.
Get smaller.
Are the rules you need to what? Observe. You need to be aware of these rules. So that is taking us to another topic. So I've explained the margin now. Now you know how to adjust your margin in case the default is not good. But before I leave the margin, I want to also inform you that manually you can actually come to the ruler tab and what? Do something like this. You can come here and do something like this. Okay? You can do something like this. But the question is, how are you sure that you made equal what? Adjustment.
Adjustment. That what you draw here is exactly what you draw the other side.
That's the reason why professionally you are to go to, if I come back here now, you meet your current adjustment. You see, you were correct here. No, remember that we have not touched. But here you can see that, well, okay, these are the area you adjusted now, the left and the what? The right.
Right.
You can see that at the left-hand side, you adjusted what? 1.6. But here, so you can see that it wasn't equal. So if you now want to correct it, you just correct one for, you just correct one. You just correct one for the other. So I can just come here and say 1.06. So I'm just using one to correct the other one now.
The other one, yeah.
You understand it?
Yes.
Good. So now that is for that. Now I want us to quickly talk on paper size. Paper size. Okay, sorry about that. You are hearing me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we are through with what? The margin. I want to talk about what? Paper size. Any question on margin?
No.
Okay, because I'll be giving you any assignment I give you. I expect that before you start typing it, you set your margin. And that's the reason why I'm asking if you understand everything I've explained. Now, let's talk about the paper size. The paper size is very important. You consider it at the point where you are about to start typing your document. All these things that we are discussing, they are not features that are to be considered after typing. They are features that are to be considered before typing.
Before typing.
That's why it's called setup. Now, paper, you should know that there are different paper sizes. We have A4, we have A3, we have A5, and a lot of them, we have envelope. And we have customized paper sizes. So every typist is expected to know, to have an idea of the paper that will be used to print out whatever he or she is about to type. Are you with me? It's very important. So if you are typing a document for someone, or you are giving it out to your worker to type for you, you should have informed them that this document I am giving you to type will be printed with what? A4. So that before typing, they must have programmed this page to A4 size, because if they don't do that, what will happen is oversize can come in. At the end of typing, you put A4 in your printer. And meanwhile, when you were processing, you use A3. Definitely A3 is bigger than what? A4.
A4.
So your document will not align the way it was on your screen. So that is why we are saying that before you start typing, go to the same layout, then go to what? Where you have size. Are you looking? Go to layout, and then consider this command, size. So this is where you actually have different what? Predefined paper sizes. So you should be able to identify the one you want to use. Of course, when it comes to office work, most people use what? Or 90% of office work are processed with what? A4. But depending, if it is graphics office, it will not be, the most used one in graphics will be A5, which is that handbill. The handbill you use in printing. And most time in graphic design, we don't have, yes, we have some standard known sizes, but most time you can go with what? Customize based on the material you are working with. Good. So now, so let's say we are working with A4. So I have just programmed the page on what? A4 what? Paper size. How do I know the default paper size? When we came in here, this was the one that was on. This one that is can see that out of all, one background is selected with grayscale color, right? Or brown color. That is how you know the one that is currently running.
On the page, on the screen.
Good. Now, if I am asked this page, which paper size is he using? I will check. It's using what? Letter.
Letter.
I click on this A4 now and I go back. Which one is highlighted? A4.
A4.
That is how you know which of the paper you are. Okay? Now, if I go to more sizes, it will now bring me to that dialog box where I can, on my own, I can come.
Customize.
Good. I can come here and go to what? Customize. I want you to see what I'm explaining on the screen. Can you see it? I scroll down so that I can see what? Customize. So once I'm on this customize, I have the privilege of defining my page width and my page what? Height. Are you following? Good. So that is if none of those pages matches what you want to do, then you have the privilege of what? Resizing it. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is all about what? Paper size. Now let's talk about the orientation. Let's talk about the orientation. What is orientation? Orientation simply means the presentation of your document. I said orientation means what? The presentation of your document. Now, when your document is presented vertically like this, maybe where you are writing like this, you are writing like this, you are writing like this. This is called what? Portrait. This is called what? Portrait. Are you with me? It looks like a vertical object. Then if it's like this, that is, your writing goes this way, writing goes this way, your writing goes this way, your writing goes this way. This is landscape. Now, look at the two shapes I have on the screen. Which one has longer lines?
Landscape.
Landscape. Good. Now, let me also inform you. If you are using 12 font size and you are using normal margin, the one that we met there as 11111. That's default margin that we saw there, 1111. You are expected to have 22 lines. You are expected to have what? 22 lines. Are you with me?
Yeah, you mean if you are working with A4 size?
Yes, if you are working with A4 size and you are on that default margin and the font size is 12, you are expected to have up to what? 22 lines on portrait.
Okay.
Then if you are working with that same 12 font size, the same on A4, if you are writing here, you will have 16. Do you know what has happened? This one accommodates what? More lines.
More lines than the other one.
So the document that is typed with this, once it's switched to this, what will happen? If it's using 2 pages here, once you switch from portrait to landscape, something will happen. The number of pages will increase here.
Increase.
Good. That is what I'm trying to explain. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So why did I explain that? I explained that so that you know you're choosing priority. When you want to choose whether to work with portraits or landscape, there are things you should capture in mind. You should know, okay, how many pages? So which means that what? The portrait is more advantageous than what? The landscape, right? That is, it can save the customer what? More money. Because it will reduce the number of what? Pages. Is that clear?
Yes.
So how do I switch? How do I change the setting? Because by default, Microsoft Word, I've already programmed it on what? Portrait. You see where I got
Portrait.
layout?
Layout.
Then you go to what? Orientation,
Orientation.
portrait. Are you following? From layout, you go to orientation. From orientation, you go to landscape or portrait. That is how to set it.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. Now, how do you know the one that is currently running? Which of, if I ask you, which of the orientation is running?
Portrait, the one that is shaded.
Good. Now, if I click here now, look at that document, you can see that what? Then if I come to this minus now so that you can see very well, then let me switch back to portrait. Does it look like a vertical object?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
let me switch from portrait to landscape. How does it look like now? Horizontal.
Horizontal. Yeah.
I told you from the beginning what? When your document is vertical, is what? Portrait. When is what? Horizontal, is what? Landscape. Any questions so far?
So when you are what?
When your document is vertical, is portrait. When your document is horizontal, is landscape. That's a simple way of differentiating portrait from landscape. So any question, because this is where
When your document is horizontal, it's portrait. When is what again? When
document
is vertical?
is portrait. When it is horizontal, it is called landscape document.
Sorry, I think you made a mistake.
Okay.
Horizontal to landscape.
No. Now look at it here. When your document is vertical, is portrait. Exactly.
Okay.
Then when your document is horizontal, is landscape.
Okay.
Exactly now.
Yeah.
So any questions so far, because this is where we are doing the cutting. And then tomorrow morning, I am going to interview you before I continue. You are going to do all these settings to ensure that you have gone through the video. So I will ask you to change your margin setting. I will ask you to change your orientation setting. I will ask you to change your paper setting. So I'll confirm that before we commence tomorrow's session. Or any question?
For now, no. Please, can we adjust the time up?
Up from
5.
okay, good. Okay, you can do
Like from 5. Yes.